He invited his maid as a joke, but when she arrived looking like a goddess, the entire wedding froze. The ballroom shimmered under Italian chandeliers, their crystal reflections dancing across gleaming marble floors. Every detail had been curated by elite professionals. White orchids flown in from Amsterdam, custom-tailored tuxedos, and a guest list of CEOs, celebrities, and politicians. It was a wedding designed to be remembered. Perfect, flawless, extravagant. At the center of it all stood Graham Wexler, 34, polished to perfection in a black tuxedo with silk lapels and cufflinks worth more than most mortgages. He adjusted his sleeve, scanned the glamorous crowd, and leaned toward his best man with a smirk. Let's see if the maid actually shows up. His friend laughed. Wait, you seriously invited her? Graham nodded. She's cleaned my house for 5 years. Figured she might as well get a front row seat to a world she'll never belong to. They chuckled. Her name was Amara. Quiet, invisible, obedient, always in faded uniforms with her hair pulled into a tight bun, eyes always lowered. No one ever asked who she was. She just blended into the walls of his estate, scrubbing, dusting, mopping. He had no idea who she used to be. So when he sent her an invitation, it was nothing more than a cruel joke. He expected her to ignore it, or cry, maybe. But she didn't. She arrived as the band tuned up and champagne flowed. The doors opened, and in walked a woman no one recognized. She wasn't wearing a maid's uniform. She was in a flawless, strapless white gown. Her natural hair styled like a crown. A silver headband shimmered on her brow. No flashy makeup, just glowing, regal elegance. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. Who is that? Was she invited? She's stunning. But it was the bride who noticed something deeper. She followed her groom's gaze. He had gone still, eyes wide, jaw slack. Then she saw Amara. The bride's smile faltered. Amara didn't demand attention. She simply walked, and the room parted for her. Even the men beside Graham, those polished heirs and executives, fell silent. This woman, who had once polished his boots and vacuumed in silence, stood like a vision pulled from a dream. His dream, maybe, but this moment didn't belong to him. It belonged to her. She walked calmly to the back of the room. No bitterness, no arrogance, just power. The groom whispered, "What is she doing here?" His best man shrugged. "You invited her." But not like this, Graham thought. She smiled gently at the bride, who hesitated before offering a soft nod in return. Amara took her place in the back, never saying a word, but no one looked away. Even Graham's father leaned over and murmured, "Is that the maid you used to mock?" Graham said nothing, because mocking her now felt ridiculous. The guests, she was a mystery. To the photographers, she became the centerpiece. But to the groom, she was the mistake he never knew he'd regret. What no one knew was that Amara hadn't arrived like this. Just hours earlier, she stood on a street corner in a worn beige dress, the same one she used for cleaning. She hadn't planned to attend. The invitation had felt cruel. But then, someone called her name, Amara. She turned, and there stood Zuri Blake, an old friend from university. Heels, navy blazer, shocked expression. Zuri, Amara whisper. They hugged. No explanations needed. The years between them collapsed in a breath. "You got invited to the Wexler wedding?" Zuri asked, eyeing the invitation. "Yeah," Amara muttered. "Probably as a joke." Zuri's eyes narrowed. He expects you to show up looking like that, doesn't he? Amara shrugged. I almost didn't come. Zuri grabbed her hand. You're coming. But not like this. Not on his terms. 45 minutes later, Amara sat in a salon chair, her old dress discarded, her hair styled into a glorious halo, her nails painted pearl white. Don't worry about the cost, Zuri said. I owe you more than this. A few hours later, in front of a boutique mirror, Amara hardly recognized herself. The white gown fit like a dream. Zuri placed a silver headband on her. Now, that's who you've always been. And when Amara walked into that ballroom, everything changed. Even after the ceremony, whispers followed her. Some guessed she was an actress, others a dignitary. A few bold men tried to flirt. She ignored them all. Instead, she made her way to a corner where the groom stood, drink in hand, shame in his eyes. You invited me to mock me, didn't you? She said softly. He looked around, nervous. Amara, this isn't the time. She smiled. Relax. I didn't come to ruin your day. I came to remind you what you couldn't see for 5 years. He clenched his jaw. You think you're better than me? I don't need to be, she replied calmly. I just needed to remember I was never less. She turned to leave, but he stopped her. What were you really? He asked. You weren't just a maid, were you? She paused. I was a top student at St. Clair Law. I was set to graduate with honors. But I lost both parents in a car crash right before finals. I dropped out to raise my brother. Took any job I could. Your house was just one of them. His eyes widened. You had a law degree. I had potential, she corrected. You just never looked long enough to see it. Minutes later, an elegant older woman approached her at the dessert table. I'm Judge Vivian Whitmore, she said. I overheard your conversation. I taught at St. Clair 20 years ago. I remember your name. You do. You wrote a paper on equity law that I still quote in my lectures. She smiled warmly. If you want a second chance, I can make a call. Scholarship, placement, a seat waiting for you. Amara couldn't speak. She nodded, eyes full of tears. She left the wedding without another glance at the groom. She didn't need to. Those who once stared now stepped aside with quiet respect. The men who once chuckled now looked away. Zuri waited by the door, keys in hand. As they drove off, Amara looked out the window, head high, spirit unshaken. The girl who once mopped their floors had just walked out of their ballroom like a goddess.